Hello and welcome to the Satluj TV Podcast. When Nikhil Gupta pled guilty just a few days ago to the attempted assassination of the Khalistan referendum organiser Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, this signalled there had indeed been a transnational plot to murder political opponents of the Indian government. But the key questions are, did the plot go all the way to the Indian Prime Minister himself? And secondly, did this plot, alongside the several other murders of Khalistan campaigners globally, officially amount to state terrorism? Well, to answer this question, I'm joined today by a regular guest, Dr. Singh Grewal, MD. Dr. Grewal, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us once again today.
Good morning, Angus. Vaheguru Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ki Fateh. So, this is a very interesting subject. We will think with this guilty plea, what everybody knows, why India is not called terrorist state. So we're trying to study that subject, and we'll explore how this works in international politics. So state terrorism, transnational repression, and contemporary international system. We'll use this in comparative analysis with reference to India. So we'll examine the concept of state terrorism, define transnational repression, analyze alleged extraterritorial targeting, compare multiple international cases, evaluate attribution challenges, assess diplomatic labeling standards, and understanding implications of democracy. So what is state terrorism? State terrorism is the use of violence by government actors directed against civilians or opponents, designed to maintain political control, intended to suppress dissent, operates through institutional agencies, different from insurgent terrorism, recognized in modern political scholarship. So it's not insurgency. Blakely's definition, which is used by a lot of people in political science. The state actors use violence or intimidation. So state actors use violence or intimidation. Here we can see the reference to Vikas Yadav. Targets perceived political threats. That's like Gurpatwant Singh Pannun is considered a threat to Indian system. Goal is a fear beyond immediate victim. So they're not trying to only kill him. They are trying to create psychological deterrence for all diaspora Sikhs like me. Signals power to broader population. So they're trying to give a message to Sikhs inside India and outside India and other minorities. Used historically across regimes, core academic definition. So I think this tells us what we're talking about, okay? Stores of fear communication theory. Violence serves political messages. So this killing is a kind of political messaging to the people who are opposed to the government that you cannot hide from us. This is not only physical elimination, creates wider social intimidation, warns others against opposition, transforms isolated acts into signals. Fears become governance tool, central concept in state terror studies. So basically, this is their way of communicating to the dissidents that you are not beyond our reach. By killing one or two, they are trying to send a message to the whole community that you are under our control. So what is transnational repression? It's a state actions beyond national borders, like out of India here. Monitoring of diaspora communities, which is done since 1984 or starting before. All gurdwaras, all politically active organizations, activists are being monitored. Threats to activists abroad, like killing of Pai Nijjar and threat to Gurpatwant Pannun, killing of Mr. Khanda in UK. Question of family members. Family members sometimes are threatened and sometimes they give in. They lost one son and they don't want to lose the others or daughter. Kidnapping or assassination attempts, suppression of overseas dissent, which is obvious, growing global security concern. So, for diaspora Sikhs or any such community, there's a concern that they leave their country thinking now they are safe, but they're not safe in this new system. Modern global context. Globalization suppress dissident communities. So, because the people leaving India now who don't like what's happening here, that dissident thought process is spreading to wherever they migrate. Digital communication crosses borders. Political exile no longer guarantees safety. Security agencies operate internationally. Diaspora political affect domestic legitimacy. Government pursues perceived threats abroad. New doctrine emerging globally. So, globally, as communities migrate from one place to the other, this security is not guaranteed because of this monitoring system and the way they can suppress that dissent. So Gupta case, which happened a few days ago, Gupta was hired by Ra agent Vikas Jadhav to hire somebody to get Gurpatwant Singh Pannun killed, and they also talked that Nijjar is also one of the targets. There are many other Sikhs that are targets. This is not only Gupta. I don't know if you remember, there was a major Arya talking on Indian channels. Okay, we should hire the criminals in the US to kill the Sikhs. So this was a widespread public opinion of RSS against the Sikhs. Even in India, now they're poisoned because of this criminal charges and guilty plea. He's charged in murder for hire conspiracy. There are 3 charges: murder for hire, maximum sentence for 10 years; conspiracy to commit murder for hire, maximum sentence 10 years; money laundering conspiracy, maximum sentence 20 years. So he has not been sentenced. That's scheduled sometime in May. Target was Sikh political activist Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, for now residing in New York, alleged coordination with the government employee. We are using the word alleged, even though everybody knows, but until Vikas Jadhav is convicted, I think this will be the language used in conversation. Financial arrangement discussed in indictment, major international legal case. It's interesting, why did he plead guilty? He was denying all the way. I think Indian government must have bought him, pressure him, or use whatever tactics they can to end this case so it doesn't continue going further. Because Ra functioned directly under the Prime Minister's office. So it's hard to believe that Prime Minister, his National Security Advisor, Doval, and Ra Chief Gupta did not know it. It goes all the way, but it's hard to prove because there are layers and layers that we talk how they hide. U.S. prosecutor claim plot alleged directly by Vikas Yadav describes an Indian government employee, advance payment allegedly transmitted, total payment discussed $100,000. If Vikas Yadav was working Vaidya Roga employee, he has no way to get $100,000 saved from his salary. So it's obvious that this makes no sense what they're saying. Case treated as a foreign director plot. FBI issued wanted notice. serious diplomatic implications. So, relationship during previous president with the prime minister was not good because Mr. Biden tried to convince them that they need to stop this and apologize or whatever language they use, but PM just kept denying. Analytical importance. Not only a criminal conspiracy, it raises a question of state linkage. Civilian dissident targeted abroad involves sovereign jurisdiction breach. So like US is a sovereign country and they're trying to commit murder of a US citizen on US soil. It's very serious. I don't think US can take it lying down. So it's now there's no reaction, no speech, no bragging by Mr. Modi used to say, yeah, we will intrude and kill you in your home. It triggers international law concerns, fits emerging repression framework, major test of modern accountability. So this is I think recently in our memory, the big case where we'll see how far US government will go and how far India will correct itself. In fact, the President Trump has published a strategic US defense policy. I may be quoting the wrong heading, but in it, one of the things is the US will not tolerate any attack on US citizens in US soil or even abroad. So I think it is in the policy which is publicly available. In Canada, Nijjar case, Prime Minister Trudeau clearly blamed India, but they denied. Canada alleged links to Indian operatives connected to 2023 killing in Surrey. Government publicly raised concerns. Intelligence intercept reportedly reference. India officially denied involvement. Legal process still going on. Case remains diplomatically sensitive. Mr. Trudeau is gone. There's a new prime minister. I think they know what happened, but they are, I think, trying to improve their relations because of trade and all that things. But, people's life and this human rights cannot be sacrificed by these advanced countries' intelligence attribution problem. So this is important. What we're talking is how the intelligence people have layers and layers, how they can deny. Covert operations are intentionally deniable. Multiple levels of authorization exist. Operational handler level, agency, institution level, executive, political level. Public proof rarely reaches top tier, creates analytical uncertainty. So all these points, valid even in a Gupta case or such cases, because the government has created a system where they can deny and never admit and never be implicated at the higher level. Intelligence structural reality. RA operates under executive oversight, linked to cabinet secretariat, which is directly under the Prime Minister Modi or whosoever is the Prime Minister. Reports through national leadership structure. This organization is somewhat similar to CIA, M16, SVR models, comparing to other countries. Operational secrecy is standard. Oversight and deniability coexist. Common global intelligence architecture. So you can see how they can hide or prevent the criminal proceeding going to the highest level. Comparative case. Other countries have been doing, like Russia, in 2006 in London, Litvinenko, who defected, was poisoned with chemically, somewhat similar to, I think, Khanda case. Some radioactive material was given. Another poisoning in 2018. British investigation attributed to this GRU. This is the Russia's organization. Operation used chemical agents used as a deterrence against defectors. So they were trying to send a message that if you defect, you are not safe. We can kill you too. Scholars classify as a state terror signaling. Major diplomatic expulsion followed. Some of the diplomats were kicked out on both sides. Another case of Saudi Arabia, Khashoggi killed in Istanbul consulate. UN investigation classifies extrajudicial killing. Saudi officials implicated in planning. Global diplomatic crisis emerge, raise sovereignty and human rights concerns. Examples of overseas dissident targeting, one of the clearest documented cases. So whole world knows what happened, but the people's memory is short. After a while, trade talks and other relationships become more important. Iran case, Mykonos restaurant assassination in Berlin, German court investigation conducted, evidence linked to Iranian leadership, rare judicial attribution upward, created major diplomatic fallout, expulsion and sanctions followed, important precedent in international law, but Iran never admitted. China, I did not find any recent case, but China is also known to or alleged to do the similar things. Israel is infamous for doing this, and Indian agencies probably are learning from Mossad. Israel conducts overseas counter-terrorist operations, targeted identified militant threats. Supporters argue preventive defense. Critics cite sovereignty violations. Raises legality of target killing, shows security versus law tension, highly debated international model. Many years ago, they killed one person who they thought was a threat to Israeli security. I think it was in Norway or one of the Scandinavian. They turned out they killed the wrong person. Indications in Indian case, civilian political activities targeted. Covert intermediary structures use financial transfer mechanism alleged. Foreign jurisdiction involved. They're done in Pakistan, Canada, England, and tried in US. Possible deterrent signal effect. They think they will silence the opposition, mainly the Sikhs, but they don't know the Sikh mindset. They don't know the Sikh character. They don't know the Sikh culture. Like we talked about McNamara's case, how they misunderstood Vietnam. It's a very similar situation here. They do not understand Sikhs. They think by force, they will quieten us. Sikhs will actually grow more in numbers and movement will get stronger. So this is their misunderstanding, and they keep doing the same mistake again. It matches scholarly repression indicators, require caution, evidentiary interpretation. Okay. Let's see what is the why they are after Mr. Pannun. In India, 1995, there was a Supreme Court case. There were 2 Sikhs, but only I find the one name who was raising pro-Khalistan slogans after Indira Gandhi's death. They were saying Khalistan Zindabad, and they were arrested and jailed. But they went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court decision stands. Supreme Court says Khalistan slogans without incitement to violence or public disorder does not constitute sedition. The judgment affirmed that isolated political expression is constitutionally protected, even when advocating controversial or separatist views. At the same time, India's national security laws allow the state to prohibit organizations deemed secessionist, creating a dual framework in which peaceful individual speech may be protected while organized movements can still be restricted. This is what we're talking. Even though Supreme Court has given that decision, they can use force. For example, Mr. Amritpal Singh, he's in jail. He only used voice. But even Supreme Court doesn't come to his rescue because judges are not free. What evidence does not show? So how the governments save themselves? No public proof of executive authorization. No confirmed written political orders, because they don't do politically written orders. It's all verbal, and it's between one person and the other. No documented cabinet directive. If they have, we will never find out. No leadership admission publicly released. Operational linkage alleged only, even though everybody knows who's head of RA, where they take directions, but it's hard to prove in court that yes, he did it. Legal responsibility is still contested. Important academic distinction. So system is set up such a way that the higher authority can deny and still do the wrong thing. So this is the question we're going to discuss. Why India is not labeled terrorist state. That's the question we ask. Okay. This designation tied to supporting militant groups, not typically covert intelligence operations. Major powers treated cautiously. So, like trade and other things, which is important. India is important in the political situation in China versus US. They are still trying to woo India. And this terrorist state is not a legal definition. It's just usually the US designates and at the Secretary of State level, and the other people follow. I have not seen any other country designating terrorist state to another state or country. Strategic alliance influence diplomacy. So strategic alliance influence diplomacy. So one person like Hagoshi's life is can be sacrificed in strategic alliances. Economic integration limits sanctions. Incremental accountability preferred. International labeling highly political. So they get away because of a strategic political situation, economic trade barriers, and other things. Diplomatic response patterns. Sometimes what happens, short of calling them a terrorist state, criminal indictment will be issued against one person or two persons, like Vikas Javadar is wanted in US, but not the raw head. Visa ban sometimes imposed, so these people may be not allowed to enter US. Intelligence officers expelled. Most of these intelligence officers also work in embassies and they have a diplomatic immunity. So they expelled but not tried. Diplomatic protests filed. Quiet negotiations often follow. Sanctions used selectively. Rarely full state isolation. So the governments will do all these things short of designating a terrorist state, which is obvious what is happening.
Thanks, Dr. Grewal. That's fascinating. And one thing that actually really occurred to me as you were speaking there, you mentioned Russia, China, Iran, some of the usual suspects in terms of international terrorism, let's call it. Some legal commenters have said online that it's likely that obviously all sorts of deals will have been reached behind the scenes that we will never know of between Nikhil Gupta's legal team and the state prosecutors. But some people have commented that Nikhil Gupta deliberately pled guilty because that then stops any further investigations, particularly through the judicial process, into what caused him to cause his criminal acts or potentially terrorist acts, which in other words, basically his pleading guilty hides the possibility of turning up the Indian government being behind his activities. So that's certainly something that's been claimed online. But it is also very interesting, and I do note, of course, countries like Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, again, the usual suspects, our governments are always very vocal in calling these countries out, because these countries very clearly, certainly in most cases, they are guilty of state terrorism in whatever forms it happens to take. India, clearly, as we all know, is guilty of the same sort of crimes, even though, and actually very similar to Russia, we can't actually prove, for example, that Putin said, poison Litvinenko or whatever. We can't prove that, but we know it. And the same case with India. We know Modi, in all probability, authorised the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, Avtar Singh Khanda, Gurpatwant Singh Pannun. So why are our governments, in the case of India, not doing the same as they are with Russia, Iran, North Korea? Why aren't our governments calling India out in the same way? It's double standards.
Yes, there's no doubt. Modi was bragging on the TV. Ghuske maronge, we will intrude and kill you. That he was saying after they killed some many Kashmiri dissidents and one Sikh in Lahore. Okay, so they were openly bragging about these things. But the governments have other compulsion. They want to continue their trade, political alliances, and all that. One life doesn't matter that much. So the guilty plea is a very interesting phenomenon, okay? So when he pleads guilty, the Indian government benefits because then further investigation all the way up, except Vikas Jadhav, whose name will continue, will not proceed and they will pay his family or something, whatever the deal is, we don't know, okay? But it makes sense that something happened. But look on the other side, for law and order, it's also convenient for them. Case closes, they accomplish something, they found the guilty person, and the guilty person will be punished according to the law. So it's a success for them because their goal is to prosecute, prove, and punish the individual. They are not responsible doing the political work, so it never happens again. That's a different organization, different part of the government, so they both benefit. Sometimes, in history, the prosecutors will force and use force to get conviction and make the person plead. I am going to say something I remember briefly, not all details. In England, I think you may know better, there was 5, 6, or 7, 8 people arrested from Irish group in some bombing case, okay? And then there was also a movie on that, In the Name of the Father, okay? The police officers who arrested them, they put a gun to their head that if you don't confess, we'll kill you, so they did. And they were rotten in many years in jail. And the same police officer arrested the original person, the real person who committed crime, who confessed. But they never disclosed until a lady lawyer pursued the case and those people were free. By that time, most of their life was end up in jail. So if somebody confesses and they plead guilty and the case is over, so the law and order also wins. I think it's I don't know what else can we expect from them because they don't solve our political problem. Their job is to do what they did. And the Indian government, whatever they could guide Gupta, they ended. Gupta knew that there was no way he could get out of this case because there was so much evidence. Because he hired somebody who works for FBI, who reports to FBI.
Well, it's interesting, Dr. Grewal, because of course there is this, the important distinction here, what we're talking about is criminality versus terrorist activity. Now in Canada, for example, we do know that Lawrence Bishnoi's gang has now been designated a terrorist organisation. That is a huge step, a huge political step on behalf of the Canadian government to designate a criminal gang as a terrorist gang, effectively. That, by implication, means being terrorist, they must have some political element to it. And being political, they must therefore be representing an unnamed party, but of course we all know it's probably the Indian government. So the Canadian government have actually made this step, which is a huge step in itself, elevating it from simple criminality to terrorism. The big question really then, I suppose the large question overall is, are they winning? Is India winning this battle through their terrorist activities?
So I will answer that in the end. Let me talk a little bit about Canada, okay, from what we know. When that Air India plane went down, two of them, there was enough evidence the Canadian intelligence agencies has that there was linked to the Indians hired and they carried out to blame the Sikhs. Okay, we can talk all day. There's a book, Soft Target, which those authors, Kashmiri, I met them personally. They were very convinced, and they documented in the book the Indian government was to be blamed. But somehow the Canadian government tried not to pursue all the way to the government level, and whatever the political judgment they made, only they know. So what happened then? India become more bolder, and they embolden them, and now they send more and more gangs. They control the streets. You know, in Canada, it's a very bad situation, law and order. They have sent gangs who shoot people, and they are controlled by Mr. Bishnoi. And Mr. Bishnoi, in Delhi area, then in Punjab, the Modi government were responsible. I blame him because he's the chief executive. They transfer him to Gujarat. So his criminality cases are in Punjab, Delhi area, other place. But he transferred to Gujarat, where now he's in jail. He's in jail because he's safe there. He's in jail, then probably all the facilities. So when the governments ignore these, the criminals become more bolder. And this is what happened in Canada. Now they're having a hard time control the street violence, and somebody threatens somebody because they have money, and then they find the link to some criminal sitting in Indian jails or outside. So I think it'll take them some time to control it. So they know for sure India is behind it, but publicly they have not taken that kind of stand, and they're still trying to improve their relations, economic relations, because there's a new prime minister. The foreign minister now, the lady who's of Indian region, they are using her for good connections. So this is a sad case.
And also, if we follow this through to its logical conclusion, India's state terrorist activity that is primarily targeting Khalistanis can only ever end through one of two ways. Firstly, they can either kill every Khalistani on the planet, which obviously is impossible. You certainly can't kill an ideology, as we've talked about in the past. Or secondly, Khalistan happens. So ultimately, really, Dr. Grewal, the conclusion is the only realistic solution to this is India has to grant Khalistan, because this is a battle it cannot win.
So interesting question. India's constitution, the preamble says secular socialist state. Secular socialist state. right? You get it? But look, the Hindu people who want the Hindu Rashtra, there's no problem with them. They're free. They commit violence every day. They threaten people. They intimidate people. There's no problem. They are the government people. They are part of the government. So where is this secular socialist state? They are not secular. Nothing happened to them. They are not arrested. They don't go to jail. Only my people go to jail. They are being killed. Or some other Muslim communities, Christians in eastern part of the India. So this is a paradox. So this India is not what outside people believe. They're trying to look very milder. They sell Gandhi, the peace-loving, non-violence, put statues. So many problems. They don't believe Gandhi is a good person. They know. They killed him. RSS killed him. But it sells outside. The concept sells outside. They keep putting millions of dollars of statues outside just for PR. So my conclusion finally is Gupta case marks a major modern precedent. Alleged state-linked overseas targeting highlights tension between security and law, fits transnational oppression framework, executive authorization not publicly proven, global pattern spans multiple countries, democratic accountability remains central. So I think we discussed all, we're frustrated why the Western countries, the rest of the world, UN does not want to say what India is doing is wrong and they are a terrorist state. I think there's a framework how the governments can hide. Not only India, we have talked about 4 or 5 other countries. This is how they hide themselves and they are allowed to get away. Even everybody knows what they did. But unless you're proven in courts, these days is not considered a conviction. They're convicted. I think you and me have convicted them in public. Many other people have convicted. But unless law and order people, the government level, Justice Department convicts them, I think they get away. And I think with their action, I think Khalistan will come into existence. I think Sikhs need to get smarter, understand what their country will be or our country will be, how to handle, how economical model we will use, like we discussed last time. Successful economic model is very compatible with the Sikhi principles. So we have a lot of things to learn from the free world. Look at the US Constitution. US Constitution is based on Sikhi principles. I don't know how it happened, but many, many good things we can follow in our new country. So I think it's a time for Sikhs to focus how our new country will work. And instead of just the slogans, I think we need to get to more practical things, which are very important. And I think the burden is on the diaspora Sikhs to do the serious work, because doing that in India right now is very difficult. Those people are so suppressed, and it's very difficult. This is a duty of the diaspora Sikhs. And I admire Mr. Pannun for doing this good work and bringing this whole issue at the world level. And I think we owe him our thanks. He put his life on risk, and he is not deterred. He is still going strong, and that's what we all need to learn from that and be strong and continue our work.
Indeed, and well done to the DEA for preventing that assassination that literally could have changed the course of history. But there we must leave it. But we'll be talking again with Dr. Grewal soon to continue our fascinating discussion. Dr. Grewal, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Angus.
And thank you for watching the Satluj TV podcast. We will see you next time.